Weigh-In is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
Now I see the building sky high. More life, more trouble. But a man can't try. Step in the same circles which you once called home. Searching for something in common. Don't tell me love's all gone.
Wonderful scenes coming in from Trentham on the weekend with the running of the Group 1 Albasti Equiworld New Zealand Oaks. Of course, it went to Amaralinia and the connections, wonderful success for them. Really strong undercard on the program as well, where we saw some top quality gallopers and a bit of drama across the Tasman, Michael, with a lot of rain around in Sydney.
Hi, Em. Big hi to everybody. Thanks for joining us on a Monday night. It was a really fun day there. There was lots of really cool performances and good horses who made you think what's going to happen next with them. So we'll touch on those a lot at Trentham today. But a couple of other really interesting points. That whole Sydney Carnival going back a week. Look, we've seen race meetings delayed a couple of days, but moving that whole carnival and the repercussions of that. Brad Davidson's going to join us later, one of the leading journalists in Sydney, to discuss what it all means and maybe who it favours. And then, of course, sandwiched between those two activities, Hong Kong Derby success again for Hyden Park. We had to get them on the show tonight too, so we got a lot to celebrate. Yeah, we do, as always. Let's crack into it. So with the Group 1 to kick things off, it was the New Zealand Oaks.
One is Spine Tingle, Slave to Love Elefante, back behind these Killawanui, Carolina Reaper and Love It or Leave It into the straight on the Oaks, and here presented Amaralinia. She's ranged up to them and hit the lead now. From Charm Star comes after it quickly over on the outside. Back in behind these, Lana Cord runs on as two Spine Tingle. Amaralinia in front. Charm Star's going to have a crack, but she's kicking Amaralinia. She's too good in the Oaks, and Amaralinia, brilliant. Charm Star, Lana Cord, second and third. Cheaper than Divorce Spine Tingle behind these Z4s. Dragon Queen Elefante.
Well, Opie, it was smooth at the end, not so much at the start.
Nah, she just bunny hopped at the start, really. Just jumped up to the end, popped me out of the stirrups. But,
so then you lost a bit of a tactical advantage. Then you had to sort of try and make yourself a gap. You were 3 wide and you wanted to get down to 2 off, so you sort of made a gap there.
Yeah, the gap just seemed to appear there behind C4s, and I was lucky enough as following one of the favourites throughout the race, and my horse, she relaxed beautifully too, which was ideal. Switched off, but she's got a turn of foot. I got there a little bit too soon, and I didn't realise the leader would stop so quick. So,
did she find the line like a true 2-4 horse, or did she find the line like a very good filly who just ran the 2-4 because she was better than them?
I think she ran right to the line, so you can't take that away from her. But I think if I hold her up for a bit longer, she'll show that short, sharp sprint.
You've been associated with some wonderful, wonderful mares in the last 3 or 4 years. Melody Bell, Avantage, Probabile. Has she got the potential to get to those heights?
I think she has. She's always given me a really good feel, and she's still maturing too. She's quite a big filly. A little bit lean, but when she develops into that body, she's going to be a very good horse at 4.
Wasn't the easiest watch in the world.
No, just sort of planned to be positive, and we thought Needland Thread was the one to beat, so we wanted to be in sort of shooting range of her. Missed the start a little bit, or almost sort of bunny hopped out of it. I don't know what really happened, but Opie was sort of lucky to stick with her. Got a nice spot going past the winning post the first time, then got up over racing a bit and had to come out, and thankfully at the mile she was able to get back in, and she got a lovely run from there, and the rest is history.
All go for the ATC Oaks?
Yeah, well, we'll just get her home, have a look at her for a couple of days, mindful that she's been up a long time. She's done a great job for us, and a month between runs with the carnival going back a week is no problem. So we've got enough time to give her a quiet week and probably a trial, and then just assess the weather. I'd be very doubtful about her going all the way over there if there was going to be, rain and like there has been recently. But what's to say, things might change in a month's time. So we'll keep a close eye on everything. But there's definitely a chance she'll be there.
She's run over 2,400 now, but do you see her as a Livermore type horse, more of a 2,000 horse, or even a miler than a 2,400 metre horse?
I think she's very adaptable. I think the best thing about her is her temperament, that she can switch off and relax. So where she ends up next year, I'm not sure, but we'll be shooting for the stars and seeing where we end up. So if that's Melbourne in the spring, or whether it's Sydney, I'm not sure. But we're mindful, as I said, that she's had a big 3-year-old campaign, and we want to be pretty serious about our targets in the spring. So we'll have a bit of a team talk in the next couple of days and firm it all up.
You've had some great mares in that mares barn of yours down there at Maramara. Where does she sit? Does she have the potential to raise to those heights? I asked Opie the same question. I'm not going to tell you what he said.
Yeah, well, there's to be no reason why not. I guess the thing when you're comparing her to Probabile and Melody Bell and Probabile, Avantage, they all did it as 2-year-olds, whereas she's needed a little bit more time. And there's no reason why she can't go on with it and be a serious stayer. 2,000, 2,400, I'm not sure, but she's a big scopy filly that's got a lot of improvement to come. And she's a very exciting filly to have in the stable.
Oh, a wonderful filly, isn't she, Amarilinea, and well done to her. And the connections. Thought it was a really interesting point to talk about Savabeel for a minute, because 22 individual Group 1 wins for Savabeel off the back of Amarilenea's victory. That O'Reilly cross, 14% stakes winners to runners. And Waikato Stud, they've bred 3 individual Group 1 winners this season. They are, of course, Aegon, Probabile and Amarilinea. And just the quality of those horses, they're not average Group 1 winners. They're really, really serious horses at the top level. So just all accolades to Savabeel. I know he wins numerous amounts of prizes and he's well represented, but geez, what he actually does with those numbers, they are quite incredible.
And there's plenty more coming, obviously, because Hopscotch, the dam of Amarilinea, and then, now you took Spanish at school when I didn't, because I struggle with English. I call it Amaralina. That's how it sounds when I read it phonetically. But you're telling me in Spanish it's Amarilinea.
Yeah, well, we did do a little practice pre-show. We did a bit of Googling, and the Google Translate Portuguese, traditionally it would be Amarilinea.
Okay.
I'll
trust you on that one.
Yeah.
I'll trust you on that one. Hopscotch, the mare who is the dam of Amarilinea, has gone back to Savabeel like 3 or 4 more times. So there's going to be a bunch of them floating around from that family. Been a great year for Waikato Stud in a whole bunch of ways, obviously, with Aegon, and after having a pretty tough year last year, losing Sacred Falls. Back to her, the Oaks in Sydney, obviously the ATC Oaks. That's where they want to go, but they're not going to go if it's wet, and it's going to be a really tricky decision to make. As we watch the 2 dramatic parts of the race, first of all, Opie, not close to being unseated, but an uncomfortable start. What did hubby say about that?
He didn't say too much, actually. He just said just jumped away a little bit oddly. I'm glad he had his super glue on.
He made a bit of a gap here too, he said a gap appeared. I don't think a gap appeared. I think he made that gap. He just kept pressing down until someone got out of his way. To be perfectly honest, it was such a great ride from him that I'm willing to overlook the fact that he actually went too early at the top of the straight.
Well, that's one thing he did comment on post-race. He said, I just got there too early with that turn of foot. She just sort of presented herself so quick, and he almost was sort of cursing himself for having just not anticipating that acceleration from her. But that's just testament to the quality that she's got.
She accelerated like a 2,000 metre horse, winning a 2-4 race, and that was exacerbated by the fact that Needle and Thread, who was leading, stopped so badly. Now, the report on her is she's got a bone chip in a fetlock joint, so she'll need an operation, but she should be fine in 6 or 8 weeks. So no big hassle for Needle and Thread, but that was the excuse. Going back to the Australian Oaks, obviously she's favourite, and she is intending to go to Ellerslie to the trials, because it's now a week further out than it was going to be. It was going to be April the 10th, it's April the 17th. So they want to go to the trials on the 6th, then put her on a plane with Entrevia, who would both be racing the same day. And Jamie's admitted, this is an unusual one, they might fly her to Sydney, and if the track's heavy, not race her and fly home again.
Wow, yeah.
So I suppose when you've won that sort of money and you're filly of the year and you're worth a lot of money, you can afford to do that. But he doesn't want to go around on a heavy track. Now, I'm not saying it'll be heavy, but it's been enormously wet in Sydney, as we all know. So I'll be very careful about betting into that market. Away from the race, Charm Star was excellent, really good second.
Yep.
And I really feel happy for guys like Stephen Nicholas with Lana Cord. They've had an awesome month. So Amaralina is the big star of the show, but excellent for the second and third horses, cheaper than Divorce, good in fourth. She'll head to the Spelling Paddock next. I think there's a few fillies here who will go on with the job. And as I said, Needle and Thread Paddock for 6 or 8 weeks after her up.
Yeah, it was a really exciting Group 1 edition of the New Zealand Oaks. Let's get you along to one of the undercard races, and that was the Wellington Guineas, which was taken out by Need I Say More.
As they're about to top the straight for the long run in here in the Guineas, Need I Say More goes up to hold the press, and then El Tirador, Miglio de Felcrest, Brando's about to hook out to the centre and come after them as 2 Cornflower Blue. Need I Say More on the inside, hold the press, fights hard, and then Brando, El Tirador, then wide out Bonham starting to really flash at them here. Need I Say More, Bonham out wide, driven to the line though, and Need I Say More, it's a winner. Second over has been Bonham, maybe Cornflower Blue flashed into third.
Mate, he was pretty game there.
Yeah, for sure. He's very game and at a wide gate, and he's had to do a little bit of work to get across, and after that we got a nice sit and we slowed up a bit around the bend, and from 600 onwards he just come up underneath me and into the straight. He's cooking up really nice. He's just got a real will to win, and he's just about won most of his starts. Just privileged to be on the horse, and great win.
He was fighting hard at the end of 1,400 metres. Would he maybe stretch out to a mile?
I think probably 1,400 at this stage is more likely as go. But in saying that, he is only 3, so if he's obviously going to strengthen up a little bit more, and he may get a mile. Obviously, in his last previous starts, he's been taking a bit of a sit and not being one-dimensional and leading. So going forward, maybe next season he might get up to a mile.
It's been a magic last couple of months. Could you see your summer ending the way it has? The Karaka Million, obviously Auckland Cup and Narra Guineas?
No, not really. Well, I guess racing's funny. The tide can change pretty quickly, can't it? And been lucky enough to have some fantastic opportunities and make the most of it. And obviously, you're only as good as the horses you get on, and it's been a privilege to be able to ride some good horses.
Okay, mention your manager, otherwise we'll both get in trouble.
Yeah, obviously Bevan's done my rides for quite a few years now, and he's done a terrific job, and certainly takes a lot of weight off my shoulders, him doing the rides, and he's certainly one to thank, as a lot of people are.
If you stuff a ride up, does Bevan give you a hard time about it? Does he ever give you a telling off?
No, not really. We just sort of get on with it, and we both understand racing is racing, and sometimes things don't go 100% out there like you want them to, and then you just got to try and brush it off and focus on the next meeting, I guess.
You've won a lot of big races this summer. What's the race in New Zealand you haven't won that you would love to win?
I'd love to win a derby. Obviously, it's a very prestigious race, but we'll see how we go in the near future. You never know, but that's certainly one I would love to tick off the box.
Well done to Jonathan Parkes on his success in the Wellington Guineas, and that win made, need I say more, having won the most black type races of any 3-year-old in New Zealand, which is a really good success for the season, and now winner of 7 of 9. He's got a fantastic winning record, and I just feel, Michael, he doesn't know how to lose. He had to work pretty hard early, but he still was very brave.
I feel a bit sorry for him, really, because extending out to 1,600 in the Guineas down at Riccarton, he just didn't get it, and now people sort of picked on him for not getting it. But he's just a 1,200 to 1,400 metre horse. Maybe he'll get 1,600 because he wasn't carrying a lot of weight back in the spring. So maybe as he gets stronger, he'll be able to cop that. I spoke to Jamie about where he goes next. He's going to have a week off. They are considering the Cambridge Breeders at Te Rapa. But if he doesn't go there, he's definitely not going to Brisbane. He's going to go to the paddock if he doesn't go there. And Jamie said, well, think about next season. There's lots of options at 12 and 14 early in the season. And then there's obviously the Telegraph and the Railway if he wants to stick at 12. Bonham was really good in second.
Very brave, yeah.
This is interesting. I spoke to Jono Bennett today. She's off to the Easter Handicap. Don't often see 3-year-olds in the Easter Handicap in New Zealand. Got on to Craig Baker from Ellerslie. He said she might be on the minimum, close enough to it, 53, 54 kilo type thing. The other option was to go to Tiara for the Breeders, where she's only getting 2.5 kilos off Levante, Avantage, and a horse we'll see shortly in Coventina Bay. So Jono said, look, wettish track potential there, we'll go there. And Cornflower Blue is going to Tiara to take on the older mares. So again, looking for that Group 1 type with her. So pretty busy sort of bunch of races for those good fillies. Brando, they're going to let down for a couple of days and then make a decision, but clearly they think Melbourne took more out of them than they expected it to take out of them. Just on the 3-year-olds, by the way, when I spoke to John O'Bennett today, Montre Moi has been sold. So as people thought may happen, Montre Moi, money hasn't come through yet, but deal's been done and he'll be heading to Hong Kong.
Yeah, it was a good run by Hold the Press as well in that Guineas too.
Look, I think the inside early in the day played as a bit of an advantage, and it suited horses who were on the speed. They didn't go awfully hard either, but later in the day it balanced out a little bit more, but early doors, both there and Tauranga, you really wanted to be on the speed. I thought for most of the patterns I could see.
One of my favourite mares going around at the moment is Coventina Bay, and she was successful in the Cuddle Stakes at Trentham.
Hail Mary Vent takes off as well. Acceleration behind the Maraloon and Cinerama. They go to the 400 metres in the Cattle Cruise. Ramirez outside of Mohaka. Now Coventina Bay looking to shoulder her way into the clear and is through now. Jessie G over on the outside. Here's Coventina Bay coming after them really quickly. Mohaka kicking Jessie G over on the outside. She's in front. Coventina Bay on the outside. Jessie G tries really hard, but she's done enough. And Coventina Bay will beat Jessie G, Mohaka and Belle Plaisir. Vent behind them.
Pretty good mare, this Coventina Bay.
She is. She's done nothing wrong, sort of whole prep, and it made it a little bit easier today that I was able to hop away and just race a little bit closer because I was mindful of the lack of early tempo on the race, so it worked out well.
Okay, got a big question coming up. You have two very good mares to potentially ride in the breeders at Te Aroha. If they both head there, you can't sit on both of them, Sammy.
Yeah, I can ride one, lead one. Yeah, I guess it'll be a decision I make. Talk to both Rob and Ken and see how their mares are coming through. Obviously, it's still a couple of weeks away, and as we know in horse racing, it's a long time between now and then. So, I mean, it's a great position to be in. Every jockey wants to be in a position to be riding two mares like this, and I'm very appreciative of and grateful for the opportunity to be on them both. So I just have to have a sit down and think about it, and yeah, I mean, and just hope it doesn't rain because that really won't be helpful for either of them, to be fair.
Oh, good to get Sam Collett's thoughts there in an enviable position to be in, I suppose you could say, having to choose between Levante and, of course, Coventina Bay. That was black type victories in her last, the second black type victory in her last 3 outings. She's putting together a great record. She's won 8 of 12. Just love the way she pins the ears back in the closing stages and gives it a nudge.
She's not dissimilar to the other really good mare that Sammy rides in Levante, where I think that they're actually more brilliant when they don't work early, which is probably most horses, to be honest. But they both find the line really well. I think if they're both sound, the day acceptances are done for the Te Aroha breeders. I think Sam will ride Levante. I could imagine a Lisa Rawpress type person turning up on a horse like this, but you'd love to be on either of them. Of course, Avantage will be there waiting for them as well. So, as we've said before, the Te Aroha breeders, Cornflower Blue heading there as well. It's going to be what a great way to end our Group 1 season. Well done to Robbie Patterson. Like, it's, you know, his strike rate's outstanding. It's not easy to truck this mare to Rapa and Auckland. She's been to lots of places and held her form really well. So I would love to see him get a Group 1, but it's going to be one of the toughest Group 1s of the year. Yeah,
it is. And I love what he said post-race, actually, that she was a little bit fresh going into the Cuddle Stakes, and he reckons she could tighten up a little bit, and she was quite a bit above the weight that he had her at for Matamata. So he thought that there was a few screws to be tightened yet. And I know he feels she goes best fresh, and we're going to see her in that state at Te Aroha. OK, Te Aroha, 1600, give them barriers 4, 5 and 6. Avantage, Coventina Bay, Levante on a dead 5. I'm going to go Avantage because she's a 8-time Group 1 winner, so I think she's probably the class act, and she's very versatile. Coventina Bay will run you a very honest race. Levante has the ability, has the class, 100%, but it's just the adaptability and versatility. I think the market would go Avantage, Levante, Coventina Bay, but the track conditions will play into it too. Of course, Avantage would handle the wet, the other two yet to prove that will be the same situation for them. But it's a great way to end the Group 1 season. It's going to be an amazing day, of course, because it's also Doncaster Day, because that carnival's gone back a week, which we'll discuss a bit more later on. Yeah, we will. Well, let's move you along to the New Zealand St Leger. Waisaki was successful in this one and another really brave staying performance.
Beavertown boys starting to pick up now as they turn D&G Amano, Duplicity and Baby Manaka to the 400 metres. And here Waisaki goes up and claims the lead. Skyfighter is now trying to chase him down. Lincoln King the inside and Bodeswell looking to round off as to Beavertown boy. Waisaki still the leader here from on the inside. Lincoln King out wide. Bodeswell's trying to round up and Skyfighter in the middle. Waisaki's in front and he is home here. And Waisaki way too good. Skyfighter Bodeswell behind them. Beavertown boy, Lincoln King, Springsteen.
Well, Alan, that ends a pretty successful summer for Waisaki.
Yeah, it has been. He's ticked all the boxes, got the one we wanted to. Nice, easy end to the season, but he's not going any further. He can go to the paddock and we'll assess next year.
When they win 2 mile races, everybody starts to think the same thing, which is, would you have a crack at a Melbourne Cup? I take it you're not thinking quite that lofty?
No, mate, I've had She Sensational that could have ran in it, and my late father said it's all very well running in it and running 9th. That's great. You all have a good day on the booze, but I think it's about putting money in the bank and doing the right thing by the horse. They're a good syndicate. COVID sort of put them off travelling at this stage. I might have gone to Adelaide. So we'll just have a look around. New Zealand Cup's worth 300. Hopefully they put the stakes up, mate. And the Wellington Cup would be good to win again.
Does that concern you if you go to Riccarton and you have a win that you're going to get to the top of the weights pretty quickly, which these days can be 60 kgs for a Wellington Cup?
Yeah, well then it puts him out of range a wee bit. So tactically we've got to look after his ratings. But then he's a horse that, to get him fit, he's going to race in shorter distances where he's not competitive, so it may work in our favour.
Is there an option for the syndicate to take him to Australia longer term if you're not thinking immediately this season? Because once you do get to the top of the handicaps, Aussie's your only other option, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is. And possibly they've got to look at it, Sydney Cup beckoned this year and probably been a good option. He goes in wet and firm. But he's had a good year and I think you've got to go on an upward plane to those places. So we'll just put him out.
You've also had a very good year, Alan. Your strike rate's been outstanding. Have you done anything different at all, or is it just simply better cattle?
Oh, I'm blessed with good staff, mate, to be honest. And I haven't done a lot differently, but I think I've got a group of horses that all come at once. And as you've talked about it on TV, once you get a bit of quality, it's a lot easier. So, yeah, I would say it's going to be my best year. But, yeah, I've got some nice horses.
Well done to Alan, very modest there, but geez, Waisaki's really putting together a good record and he's just so effortless in what he does. And it was a really intelligent ride by Hazel Chauffeur as well, I thought, because she was wide and she just allowed the horse to get into a rhythm and rode him like he is the best horse in the race. And another talking point, of course, is another victory for Zed, who's just becoming such a highly rated horse, a stallion in the stallion ranks for those staying races.
Well, obviously he had a Caulfield Cup winner this year who's maybe going to go in very, very elegant to a Prix d'Arc Triomphe. This is crazy dream stuff for a horse who used to, serve Clydesdale mares. He's a pretty good horse, Waisaki.
Very, yeah.
It'd be really tempting to go to Sydney, but even more tempting to, as Alan said, have a day on the booze and go to Melbourne. But he's not that stupid, Alan. He's a crafty dude. And he's handled him beautifully, looked after his rating. I'm not sure how he's going to look after his rating anymore, because if he wins in New Zealand Cup, then he's the top weight for a Wellington Cup, surely. And that's really tricky. Not many horses carry 60 kilos or 58, or whatever the top weight is to win our 2 mile races. So I think eventually they might have to look at Australia, and once a Trans-Tasman bubble of some sort comes up, maybe that will be more inviting.
He's got the quality. 100% he's got the quality.
Well, especially for a South Australian Cup or and there's other races
provincial
around, like a Mornington Cup last weekend. There's other races around. They don't all have to be the Cups, obviously. I tell you, the horse in that race I think is a really good horse to follow. The horse around third, Bodes Well. He comes out of that race as a rating 77. John Wheeler might be smart enough to get a New Zealand Cup out of this horse, or a Wellington Cup. I think he's been a progressive horse over the summer. He's only 4, he's going to be 5 next year, and coming back as a 77, really easy to place into one of those races. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's the horse Waisaki has to beat in the New Zealand Cup, because he went there on Cup Day last year and won at Riccarton, so he's had that experience. This just reeks of John Wheeler's next New Zealand Cup horse.
I really think Waisaki's got the potential to be better again next year as well. A late maturing breed, and Alan's looked after him, so I think there's every possibility that he could improve next year after a nice break. And
well, the concern for me is the weight. Look, he doesn't particularly look like a weight for age horse. You wouldn't think he's brilliant enough for 2,000 metres. We don't have many weight for age races past 2,000 metres. So I think they'll probably have to take him to Aussie at some stage because I've actually met the owners. They're lovely people. I met them after the Wellington Cup and you can tell they enjoy the travelling. You get the feeling if there was a Trans-Tasman bubble now, they might be more interested in going.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of us, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And 6 weeks between runs as well for Waisaki, so a really good training effort as well. Let's get you along to the Lightning Handicap. The ever-consistent Grand Mason victorious.
Live drama, Multi-Veloce behind them, Rockin' Affair, Pussy goes wider, inside of it Capinos, Rockin' Horse right to the outside as they gallop on down here, and it is Johnny Jones from Live Drama, Multi-Veloce looking to ease through a gap, isn't there just at the moment, out wide, Pussy goes starting to put in with a run as they gallop down to the 200 metres here, Johnny Jones, Live Drama on the outside, Pussy Gur, Multi-Veloce trying to push through and wider out, Rockin' Horse and Grand Mason starting to storm, a big finish coming up, they hit it, Grand Mason, I think. Grand Mason, Rockin' Horse, Pussy Girl, Romantic Lady, and then we had Johnny Jones Live Drama.
And in John O'Benner's words, he brought his A-plus game in the Lightning Handicap to get up and win. 13 seconds and thirds across 26 starts. He's been ultra-consistent, Grand Mason, a beautiful, striking horse. And I think he's 6 years old now, and I know Jono referred to him as the stable pet, so well-loved at the Benner Wynyard stable.
He's a big pet. I'd never seen him in the flesh before. I hadn't noticed him in the flesh, but God, he's big. He'd be at least 17 hands. You don't often see fast horses who are that big. Like, he's proper fast. How fast? Well, he came home 31.83 the other day.
Oof.
From last. I know they can run wicked times down a dog leg from the 600 because obviously that's more or less a straight line and they're top quality horses. But that's the second time in a row he's done it. He came home in 32 seconds for his last 600 the start before, so he's deceptively fast.
He's the kind of horse that has to be cuddled up too, doesn't he? And then, whoosh, one big burst.
Beautiful ride by Lisa. And to have the courage to go out there to ride them in a 1,200 metre race, knowing you're pulling back to last, it doesn't work very often. So he's had 5 wins now for $100,000 for Jean Campen, who was tremendously excited after the race, as she tends to be most of the time. So I was thrilled to see her get a nice win. They're going to try and stretch him to 1,400 next time, the Flying Handicap at Awapuni, which is a really good race in about 12 days' time from now. So that's what he'll try to stretch out to. You would suggest he can find 1,400 the way he races. Whether you can afford to be dropping back to last around Awapuni is probably a different story altogether.
Yep, exactly right. Let's get you off to a break here on Weigh-In, and then on the back of that, we take in some of the action from Todonga.
You got the way to numbing the pain. Don't start running away from here. Stop running away.
Today's Weigh-In is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
Welcome back into Weigh-In, and we take you to Todonga, which was our other meeting on the programme on Saturday. We kicked things off with race number 6, where Go Nicholas was successful, Michael, in a really nice performance.
What a great old horse he's been. 9 wins, that's him in front, and that was the place to be for most of the day at Tauranga, but you still got to win. 9-year-old, 11 wins, 301,000 in the bank for Shelley Harley. He actually won this race last year, but it was a different distance. It was the 1,400 metre race last year. This one over the 1,600, but yep, you'd love a horse like him who just keeps on trying. And the horse he beat in this race last year was Popstar Princess, and she turned up in race 4. So she turned up 2 races earlier and was also able to win. So the Quinella out of the race you're watching here last year actually provided 2 winners on the day on Saturday, but he must be a tough old bugger. He's 9 years old, he's won 300k.
Yeah, he has. He's always been a very consistent performance. We can actually have a little look at Popstar Princess as well. This is in race number 4 at Todonga, and another really good ride to get this one home.
Yeah, and again, up and in, which was pretty much the story for most of the day there. She's always had good speed.
She blitzes them, doesn't she, really? Yeah.
She does. She's just too quick for them. And when tracks play this way, you've still got to win them. No, she's won 8 times now for just under 200 grand. So she's on 199,000. And the great thing about her is, you know, when she goes to stud, people love buying out of fast mares. So, okay, she may not be the richest bred horse in the world, but she's probably got at least something you can run a touch.
Yeah, and she's a winner, that's for sure. Well done to the connections of both of those horses, Go Nicholas and also Popstar Princess as well. Quick update on the premierships, because we did have stakes races over the weekend. You can see how that has impacted the Trainers' Premiership. Now 130 wins for Jamie Richards, with just a little over $5.2 million in stakes. Stephen Marsh, Alan Sharrock, obviously with his success in the St Ledger, now 38 victories. Also having a look at the Jockeys Premiership, Danielle Johnson, a clear leader with 131 wins from 666 starts. Sam Collett, Lisa Allpress, look at the girls dominating there. The top three in the Jockeys Premiership, doing us girls proud. Well, now here on Weigh In, we move on to something a little bit more unique, which took place in Matamata during the week, and it was the unveiling of a statue. It was all started by the Keep Matamata Beautiful Society, and it was based around the Matamata Racing Club's centenary to establish a permanent marker of the region's contributions to racing. The statue itself, it's made out entirely of scrap metal, and the horse in the statue has the brand's MRC with 100 over 19 to portray the club's 100 years in racing. Let's have a little look at what unfolded during the evening.
Are you ready?
Yeah, it's a long process and it's a crash course on horses. I mean, I didn't know anything about horses before I started this, but I've researched it so much and got into so much tried to really get it right. It's definitely very satisfying when you've especially when you don't know anything about the subject, and that you're pleasing the people that really do. So that does make my day, that if I can get across the line with those people. And when we initially sprayed it, we had to keep it undercover, so we were in a rush to cover it up, so I didn't actually have a decent time to have a good look at it and see what it looked in the daylight. So tonight is the first time I've really sort of seen it, I guess, in that daylight, and see how the light reflects on it and how it looks. So yeah, it means I can relax now. So now my job is done now.
You know, the town should be recognised for what we do for racing, and racing does a lot for this town. Every time I see it, I can't believe what he's done, and used all different parts to build it. You know, a lot of people here, and I'm thrilled about that too, because a lot of people in the town have put their money into this project. And it's great to see so many of them here, plus other people as well, to supervise what's happened today.
Quite amazing, really, considering he's not a horse person and didn't know much. So he's listened and learnt and made a magnificent job of this. And it'll be a great attraction for the town to see the determination on the jockey's face, to look at the horse with its nostrils flared out, and it's so determined to do something, and little things like the saddle blanket blowing back, of touching the wind, and all the muscles on the horse. And I'd love to get $1 or even 1 cent for every photo that is taken of this horse in the next 2 years. You'd be a very wealthy man.
Today's weigh-in is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
It's now our opportunity on Weigh In to go international as we take things across the ditch to Sydney, where we do have Brad Davidson on the phone to talk about the great Sydney rainfall that we have been seeing. Brad, welcome into Weigh In. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, good evening, Emily. Good evening, Michael, and good evening to everybody tuning in. Yeah, it's been quite the week in Sydney, no doubt about that. And obviously, we missed out on that meeting there on the weekend, but there's been so much rain. There's been a lot of rain up the north coast of the state in particular. We've had a lot of flooding, and unfortunately, people losing their homes and restaurants and businesses. And we're just hoping everyone's staying safe. It's continuing on today. The rain continues to fall, and likely to have quite heavy falls again tomorrow. So the first reprieve we're going to get Wednesday, and I know a lot of people are definitely looking forward to that.
I know, Brad, it's really hard for people here to understand what you're going through there in Sydney, but tell us a little bit about the weather conditions, just consistent rain, and seen some really scary images and videos of tracks around New South Wales, Hawkesbury one in particular, where the water is just so high.
Yeah, exactly right, Emily. And some of the tracks are basically underwater, and it's just been relentless ever since about Wednesday last week. We had this rain come through, and I'm on the Central Coast near Gosford, and we've got a meeting there tomorrow that's been called off. They've had more than well over 300 mil of rain since basically last Thursday, so that's been called off for tomorrow. But yeah, we've had more than 300 mil where we are on the Central Coast, and as I talk to you guys right now, it's still raining out the window, and I think tomorrow we're predicting another up to about 70-80 mil of rain, and then Wednesday, like I said, it looks like it's going to take a turn and finally improve the conditions wise. But yeah, hasn't basically stopped raining since Thursday, so it's just been remarkable in that way. And like I said, a lot of people doing it really tough up the top of the state, and a few of the dams in Sydney that are basically flowing over, and there's a few nervous people around, that's for sure. And yeah, it was sad that we missed the race meeting on Saturday, but you know, in the whole scheme of things, it's something that I suppose is a bit minor.
So, Brad, the meeting was moved. That isn't a surprise at all. But the whole carnival, Brad, going back a week, which means there's a whole lot of repercussions for people travelling horses and many other factors. Was that a surprise to see that big a shift?
Yeah, it was an interesting one. Last week when we were talking contingency plans, there were a lot of rumours around the APC, Australian Turf Club, were keeping their cards close to their chest as to what they were going to do, and there was discussion about the entire meeting being run on Monday. But like I said, we just haven't had that break in the weather at all, and I'd be very surprised if they were able to run it today because, again, at Rose Hill today, I think they've had another 30 to 40 mil of rain. So then there was discussion about, you know, even back to Wednesday or maybe just the slipper next week and try to run the rest of the card, you know, during the week. So they've just decided to take the whole carnival back 1 week. And I know that's going to be frustrating for some because obviously people would have booked tickets in advance, particularly interstate or even from New Zealand, and booked for a certain race day. And now they're obviously not going to get that race day. But I suppose there's still group racing right throughout the carnival, so they're still going to be able to find a group race day or a Group 1 race day for sure. And I suppose in the whole scheme of things, you know, with the wagering and the impact of that, they definitely want to have a golden slipper meeting on a Saturday rather than a Monday or a Wednesday.
Brad, is there any concern in your mind that we might have to do this again for this Saturday, or are we expecting the rain to stop and therefore the surface water to not be a problem?
Yeah, I think we're going to be okay for this week. Like I said, that weather forecast is taking a turn on the Wednesday, and it looks pretty good for the rest of the week then. So I think as long as we get those few days of clear sunshine, we're expecting a bit of heat as well, which is always going to help the factor as well. Hopefully there's a bit of wind around as well. But I do think by the time we get to the weekend, we'll be all right. And I even think, I know they were quite confident there on the weekend, the Racing New South Wales stewards and the track manager Sean Patterson out at Rose Hill. I know they were quite confident if they didn't get that rainfall on Saturday that they would have been okay to race despite getting a lot in the lead up. So I think it's all down to what happens later in the week, but the forecast looks like it's on our side there, so I'm pretty confident we'll be right for this weekend.
Brad, plenty of New Zealand trainers, owners and punters interested in the developments in Sydney because we have quite a large team either heading there or some who are already there. What's the anticipation around horses like Amaralina or Entre Via or Frontman or Rocket Spade? Are they horses who are on the radar of the general punters and people in Sydney, or is it a case they become on the radar once they accept for a field?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter there, Michael. Obviously, Amaralina's a horse that we've been keeping an eye on, and she's got a bit of X factor about her, and because of her dominance over there, you know, a great win in the Oaks there on Saturday as well. We have been talking a lot about her, and it looks like she might have our fillies covered. There's a couple of nice fillies here in Harmony Rose and a couple of others like Montefilia, but the way she's winning over there, she's already commanding that respect, and people can't wait to see her get over here, hopefully, and all going well, of course. And of the others, it's probably more, like you said, that latter scenario where we tend to wait until they arrive and then do the form lines and see where they all stack up. But, you know, we know these Kiwis time and time again, they come over particularly for these middle distance / staying events for the 3-year-olds in particular. They're always so good, and we always respect, or well, I definitely do as a form analyst, any horses that come over. We've already seen Agon, of course, get a feature and then disappointing his next start, but he was definitely below par that day. We know he's a lot better horse than that for sure.
Brad, thank you so much for taking time out of your Monday evening to have a chat with us. Fingers crossed everybody stays safe over there and we can see that Golden Slipper and the undercard run on Saturday as planned.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. Appreciate all the thoughts from New Zealand. Looking forward to having all the Kiwi horses over here for the big group races, and hopefully you can grab a few for sure.
And we'll be looking forward to taking all of those Group 1s back here to New Zealand. Speaking of success internationally, we couldn't have this show without mentioning the success in the Hong Kong Derby for Sky Darcy. Let's have a little look back at the Kiwi success in Hong Kong.
Big leads. Sky Darcy's produced wider out from Russian Emperor, and then came Maximus, an excellent proposal. Sky Darcy, he's run to the lead in the Derby with 2:50 to go. He's a couple of lengths clear on Healthy Happy, Russian Emperor and Panfield. Sky Darcy leads. Russian Emperor's 2 lengths away with Panfield. Sky Darcy needs the post. Russian Emperor running out of time. It's Joe and Sky Darcy for the Derby. Sky Darcy beat Russian Emperor and Panfield. Then delightful out.
You can see what it means to winning jockey Joe Moreira. A Hong Kong Derby success on Sky Darcy, and he certainly enjoyed the win on the line, and well done to him and Connections. And it has a little bit of a Kiwi flavour to it, doesn't it, this victory, Michael?
It's a great story, isn't it? Hyden Park obviously have now had 2 of the last 4 Hong Kong Derby winners come out of their property. Also Beauty Generations come from there. Great for the Oaks, Darcy Brahma, who last year had Catalyst and this year has had Karma Lass, and a horse who wins the Hong Kong Derby, which is so important for the way we sell horses to the North, Emily. But if you talked about Cambridge Stud or Waikato Stud producing 2 of the last 4 Hong Kong Derby winners, you'd say, well, that's cool, but they're big players. Hyden Park's not that big a player and don't have that big a drafts. They have 10 to 12 horses a year. It's remarkable to think they've had 2 of them, along with Beauty Generation and Werther, who won the Hong Kong Derby. His damn bag of lollies used to spend a bit of time at Hyden Park too. So they are, at the moment, the kings of Hong Kong.
Yeah, they sure are. And we've got Libby Bleakley on the phone to have a little chat about that recent success. And Libby, first of all, a massive congratulations. Tell me, where did you watch the Hong Kong Derby this time around?
Oh, good evening, Emily. Good evening, Michael. How are you?
We're good.
Not as good as you.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
I don't know about this morning. Look, we, as per usual, it was just Sam and myself in our lounge watching the Derby. The interesting thing was that one of our daughters had been unwell and she woke up just as the horses were about to load in the gate. So parenting comes first, so we had to settle her back down. So it meant we actually had a delay to watching it. So while we were watching it, I did make a comment to Sam. I said, he can't have won because our phones aren't going ballistic. And all of a sudden the phones went ballistic. So it was so thrilling.
It must be quite surreal, Libby, because the success that you've been having in Hong Kong has just been unprecedented. And is it something that you anticipated? Obviously, high-quality horses goes without saying, but to then see them really deliver on the track, that must be so satisfying.
Oh, it's just beyond, just on so many levels. Like, as Kiwis, we all know we produce the best horses in the world. And, to just be able to reaffirm that race after race in Hong Kong and Australia, as a country, we just punch well above our weight. And it's just so nice when people come to our yearling sales, our ready-to-run sales every year. They invest. Some buyers spend a lot of money, and for our horses to reward them with prestige and prize money, it doesn't get much better than that.
No, it surely doesn't. The other thing I wondered if you could make people aware of was that crop that Sky Darcy came from. There's been such incredible success through that, hasn't there?
Yeah, that was, we're calling it our vintage draft. We took 10 yearlings to the sales. We actually withdrew one up there because we decided he was just too darn lovely to sell, so we took him home. But out of the 9 that we offered, we sold all 9. 6 of them are winners. Toffee Tongue, she won the Group 1 Australasian Oaks and just won a Group 3 the other weekend. Obviously, Sky Darcy winning the Derby. Canane, we pinhooked him as a weanling and offered him through the Book 2 draft, and he won the Group 3 Frank Packer Plate. And then Vegas Night, we bought him out of Melbourne. He was also in the draft, and he runs second in the Bill Sutt Stakes at Group 2 level. So when it comes to straight statistics, it looks really good.
Libby, we're watching him go through the ring now, and he's a $160,000 yearling. He was a very good-looking boy. I know it's easy to say that when they've just won a Hong Kong derby, but he had a beautiful head on him, lovely, balanced-looking type of horse. When you took him to the sales, were you thinking to yourself, this one will make it?
Actually, funnily enough, our farrier told us that this one would make it. Every year I try and pin him down and get his pick of the draft, and he's man a few words, and for a few years he didn't have much to say, but that was one horse that he he said, this is your one, guys, this is your good horse, and he thought it meant it was going to sell for the most up at Karaka, I think, but we just never anticipated he would go on to be what he is now.
We've got a lovely picture of him on screen. I know that there's a yearling on the farm who's a foal to this horse, but he obviously didn't go through the sales. He was purchased privately by one of your Hong Kong clients as a weanling.
Yes, that's correct. He's a really nice colt as well, very typical of the family and what the mare seems to have produced. So it was when we started to get the first little inkling that Sky Darcy might be more than just your average runner over there. We did sort of get a few wheels turning and, made that transaction happen. And it was just wonderful because our Hong Kong client bought him as a gift for his best friend for many, many years. And what a gift. I mean, we all wish we had best friends like that, but it just, what that has now done and what that's meant for their friendship and their relationship is, that's pretty special.
Now, Ping Hai Star was your first derby winner over there. Obviously, Beauty Generation came from off the farm and Werther's Dam stayed on the farm, Bag of Lollies for a while. I believe Ping Hai Star is back there as a nanny and he looks after the babies. And I heard today that he actually teaches them things which are really important. For people who don't watch a lot of racing or know much about breeding and farms, what does Ping Hai Star teach the babies?
Well, we also have Werther here too. So he has his own group of weanlings. They have a group each. We generally put Werther with the colts, with the older foals. He's a little bit tougher, and Ping Hai Star has the babies. When you've got a farm, it's always just a big science experiment, and we got these two boys in as nannies for the weanlings. And we've noticed over the last couple of seasons that Ping Hai Star and Werther have actually taught these babies a lot more than what they would have learnt just out by themselves. I've taught them how to fend for the feed bin and stand up for themselves. And the most important thing is that they exercise the weanlings a couple of times a day. They take them out, gallop around the paddock. They actually teach them how to run and how to stretch out and have a race with each other. And it's going to be quite interesting to see where their drafts of weanlings end up, because I don't know if there've been many weanlings that have been trained like these ones.
Libby, here's a question for everybody watching at home who's ever opened a sales catalogue. What's the most important thing in a yearling for you by the time they get to the yearling sales? So for those of us who wish we could get a horse good enough to win a derby, what's the thing that resonates with you the most by the time they get to Karaka?
It would have to be a walk. And we identify that early on as weanlings. And sometimes at various stages of growth, they can maybe perhaps not be the best movers, but I find that if they've always got the walk there somewhere, they'll always have it. And good horses have a really good walk and just a really natural sort of prowl about them. And that's certainly, something that we see from good horse to good horse, is that we always identified a really nice walk.
Libby, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I know it's a massive team effort for yourself and Sam, just a small operation, but see you getting such big success on the international stage is sure making everyone proud here in New Zealand.
That's amazing.
Great to get Libby on the show, and we stick with that international flavour, Michael, because we do take in a replay now of the Cheltenham Gold Cup, one of the features on the jumping programme, and this was a magnificent win.
Indo, who has the lead for Jack Kennedy, and blue tire for Rachel Blackmore, and then album photo, Manila Indo out in the lead. It's still a length and a half clear, and blue tire is trying hard. Time is running out, and Manila Indo leads them home in the Gold Cup. Henry de Bromhead does something no other trainer has ever done. He wins the whole.
Well, as the commentator said there, trainer Henry de Bromhead, the first trainer to win the champion hurdle, champion chase, and Gold Cup. A remarkable effort by him. And jockey Jack Kennedy, he's broken his leg 4 times before the age of 22 years old, and he was quoted saying it was the best day of his life to get this Cheltenham Gold Cup. And that jockey in second spot in the red, that's Rachel Blackmore,
yeah,
who was the leading jockey of the carnival, the first woman to have ever won the champion hurdle. I think she had the choice between those two, and she elected to go with the second horse.
Have you been to Cheltenham?
Oh, I've been to Cheltenham.
Is it fun?
Put it on the bucket list. It is
fun?
epic.
I
think it probably goes above Royal Ascot for me.
Oh, that's silly.
Honestly, jumping is...
You're not even a big drinker. What's different about it?
What's different? The atmosphere, hundreds of thousands of people, the quality of horses. Jumps racing is very hard to understand it here, but in the UK and Ireland, jumps racing surpasses flat racing of enjoyment for people. So, yeah, put it on the bucket list.
Cool footage, some great stuff. And Tiger Roll won there for the 5th year in a row. Just some big news came out last week, Emily, which is sort of media-based. SEN is an Australian radio company, and they do lots of other things as well. And they are in the closing stages of a deal to buy Trackside Radio's frequencies, which is going to put about $1.5 million, roughly, maybe a bit more, into the TRB's coffers, which hopefully can be put back into stakes. I think there's a little bit of misconception out there about what this means for radio racing. I think people are thinking trackside radio is coming back. Well, that's not the case. Definitely not the early stages of this. I've been making a few calls to SEN because I do some work with them in Melbourne. They're having a sports show. We heard Brendan McCullum's going to be on that, and it will basically be based on sport. Now, they have what's called SEN Track, which is racing chat plus racing. And they are saying we might extend out to that. We have digital platforms we can potentially do that with. But for people watching this who think that there's going to be a return of a trackside radio type thing or something like that, that's not going to be the case. The fact that this station will have a contract with the TRB will mean there will be a radio show guaranteed every Saturday morning for a couple of hours. But I just don't want people thinking this is going to happen. It may happen in the future. They tend to start their stations and then spin off digital platforms. But of course, if you miss listening to the races, you can listen to them on your phone and Bluetooth it to your car. The problem is a lot of trainers drive through areas where that doesn't work. I just don't want that misconception out there that this is a new radio racing station. It's a sports station which could spin out to a racing station in the future. So I think maybe some people in racing got the wrong end of that stick.
Yeah, still a positive for the racing industry, however. Well, that's it from us here on Weigh In. It's been an absolute pleasure to have your company, and we look forward to joining you next week.